Hey guys, Brian Stevens here with Mortgage Shots and the National Real Estate Post. Today I have Michael Schad. He is the president, the 2025 president of the Louisville chapter of the Mortgage Bankers Association. Great loan officer, lots of years of experience, a great producer. And today we're going to talk about something that is dear to a lot of our hearts, especially the folks that are watching the show. That is our veterans and as it pertains basically to VA loans and what we can do for them. First of all, I want to start with this. You have a group that the VA actually advocates for. I went to the VA site and said, hey, if you're looking for a VA loan officer, they're going to pick amongst people who are part of this group. What is that and how did you get involved with it?
The VA rep, the VA Association of Real Estate Professionals, there's chapters all across the country. I think we looked it up yesterday or a couple of days ago, and I think, they're labeled in about 20 to 30 of the states. We have two chapters here locally in Kentucky, one in my area in Louisville and one in Northern Kentucky. One of the members invited me to a meeting. They meet once a month, at least our chapter does, for lunch. And we try to bring very good knowledge to the real estate and mortgage community. Inside of that group, we teach real estate agents and mortgage officers alike about loan myths. So we advocate for those veterans. And beyond that, and just real estate and mortgages, they do so much more. They help the veterans get connected because a lot of veterans don't understand all the benefits that are out there to them. There's so many nonprofits that have popped up that help veterans in all kinds of capacities, whether it's homeless. Our group gave out 400 turkeys this year at the VA hospital. They have a care side of this group. So they're a nonprofit and they've been around here in Louisville, for about 6 or 7 years, maybe minus or so. The pandemic was always a weird time to kind of figure out exactly when it was. So I joined right before 2020, kind of fell out through that 2020-21 time frame myself. And then I've been back in it for the last 2 years. And I'm actually a representative on the education committee there too. So again, just trying to help that knowledge. And I will be the first to say I don't know it all.
Sure.
I have great friends.
Does.
One of the guys in that group, I would say a good shout out to Brian Phillips in there. He's my go-to. If I don't know it and he doesn't know it, we're going to figure it out together. 90% of the time he knows what I don't know.
How does a loan officer or realtor get involved?
It's only $99 for a membership. Like I said, you just look up your local chapters. It's varep.net. You can look and see if your area has a local chapter. You can sign up and, just reach out to one of the people that, show up inside of that. Because we have, again, they have a president, a vice president, a secretary. They have all those things. They have that cares head. They have that education head. So somebody will help get you connected and then see what that local chapter is doing in your area.
If you don't have a chapter, could you form one?
Absolutely. I'm sure if you need to get a hold of me, I'm sure I can get you. Our outgoing president is Nathan Bellows. He was served in the Army. And then we have our oncoming veteran, or not veteran, but our oncoming president is Brad Lawler. So I'm sure both of them can help anybody navigate those waters and get you pointed in the right direction. So just reach out to me.
Like I said, I'm out here in Northern California. I have Travis Air Force Base, the largest Air Force base on the West Coast. It serves all the Asian theaters. It's huge. It's a city. So I've done a ton of VA loans, and I never really get snagged up on VA loans, but I got a little snagged up on this one when I was going to get my cert of eligibility for a National Guard lady. She's a reservist over there. She's been doing this forever. She served during a time of war, as we were at war with Afghanistan halfway through 2021. I'm like, okay, so because she served in a time of war, she's going to have her eligibility, even though she's a National Guard, even though she's a reservist, even though she's intermittent. I came back and it said she's not there yet, and as far as I can ascertain, she's probably about 6 months shy. So just let's kind of clarify some of these rules. By the way, I have another friend of mine who he was discharged under honorable conditions, but it was not an honorable discharge. He got caught smoking dope in the military back when you couldn't do that, the pre-Clinton days. And they kicked him out, but they didn't give him a dishonorable discharge. But he has all of his VA benefits. In fact, I just spoke with him, and he's going to get recertified, or they're going to look at him again at the VA hospital, see if they can increase his disability. He's like, hey, I'm going to get another $1,500. So he's working the system as good as he possibly can, and he was not honorably discharged. So what does this look like then?
Yeah, so back to the guard and reservists. So they get kind of like a score sheet, kind of like think of it like school credits. They have to have so much time. And once they hit that 6-year mark and they've, straight time of their duties, they should be eligible. Where they haven't missed their 2 weeks a year, all their trainings on once a month on Saturdays or Sundays or whenever that is. As long as they hit all those marks, they tally up their time, and then they hit that number, whatever that is. So what you were thinking with this girl is during wartime. It's if she is activated, like she gets pulled into the military for 90 days. If she hits 90 days of active time straight, if she was, just doing her guard and, her normal duties during a wartime, that's not what it says. It's, they have to have been like pulled into, hey, we need you here, we need you there. And then you run 90 straight days being activated as kind of like the Army, Navy, whatever umbrella they're under.
Sure.
Once they hit that 90th day, then it's good. And then if it's during, like you said, you were going back to, so less than 2 years, if a military member, let's say they only served for 6 months, maybe they got pulled away for whatever reason. If they served during wartime for 90 days, they would be eligible, or 180 days during peacetime that they were pulled into some kind of out of town thing, is from my understanding of exactly how that works. So again, as far as the less honorable discharge, the way I think that is, it's just a case by case basis. Because I had the complete opposite. I had a guy that got in a bar fight, and whatever ended up being, he didn't realize that kicked him out of getting his certificate of eligibility. But we found out when we started doing some digging that was the reason that he couldn't get his certificate of eligibility. And again, I think there's an appeals process.
Sure.
You can jump through all the red tape you can if you want to see if you can, get them to change their mind. Again, I don't know what that 100% entails, but, I'm sure it's just a protocol of getting the paperwork in and getting it filed and seeing if they can change it, if you get enough substantiation to change their mind.
So I just was also, but one of the things she said, she goes, well, I don't want to use my VA loan. I said, why? She goes, well, the appraisal is going to be a pain in the butt and I want to buy a fixer-upper. I said, oh, you can still buy a fixer-upper with a VA loan. There's a big misconception about this, I think. People assume that the VA appraiser is going to go in there and call everything under the sun. That's just not the case.
The VA appraisal, we actually do, that's part of our myths class, and it has a lot of stuff besides just the appraisal in it, but the appraisal is a big talking piece because the veteran actually has some control. If it's not something that's just not deemed unlivable for whatever reason and a huge safety concern, the veteran actually has the ability to write strong worded letters to the VA to say, look, I'm going to fix this or cure this or whatever. Please let me take ownership of this home. And sometimes a lot of these things can be waived. My whole experience with the VA loan of why I think a lot of real estate agents get hesitant. I know here locally, I do a lot of business in Indiana, Kentucky. I'm right there on that river of Ohio. So I do a lot. That's where 90% of my business comes from. But that being said, Indiana sits in a different region than Kentucky does. Well, Kentucky VA appraisers have 10 business days to execute. Indiana, they only have 8 days to, business days to execute from start to finish from getting the order. And I think what happens is us as loan officers, again, it's a cost to do the appraisal initiated at the time the appraisal is going on. So when we do that, when we get through inspections, that team seems to go about a half a week longer than a normal appraisal. So it feels so much longer. And then God forbid something comes back on it. So I think it's all, this industry is all incorporated with feelings. So when the people get their feelings involved and now they feel something, now, it took forever and now it's short or now it's got problems. And I think that's what, again, so if you can get that ordered as soon as you can as a lender, and that's what I try to do, you can mitigate some of that time because again, we know any appraisal, we're we can have the full file ready to go, and everybody's like, "What's going on? What's going on?"
Yeah,
we're waiting on the appraisal.
Yeah. Now another part of the appraisals is appraisals coming in low. The VA appraiser they don't have to worry about their next order, which by the way, the same thing with AMCs now. But if you get an appraisal that comes in low and you disagree with it, you can go ahead and you can go down the Tidewater route. You want to talk about that for a quick second?
Yeah. So the appraiser has an opportunity to get a hold of the real estate agents through the lender right away. They invoke Tidewater. So what is Tidewater? It just means, hey, I don't see this purchase price coming in. We're undervalued. It's usually, I would say at least more than $5,000. If it was just a few $1,000s off, I think, They might still invoke Tidewater. I don't know if there's a hard line there. But from what I understand, it's like saying, hey, we're going to be off a little bit, because a lot of times with our VA loans, we're getting the closing costs paid for the veteran. So a lot of times it's kind of scooted into that purchase price. So again, if we're not getting that price, it might be the difference of the veteran getting in for nothing down, or they have to figure out how we're going to get the closing costs paid.
Or it kills the deal. But
and it could.
Yeah, here's the deal. I looked this up. The appraiser notifies the lender and the borrower that the property appraised value is likely to be lower than the sales price. This notification must be made within 2 business days. Now, at this point, the lender, the real estate agent, and the appraiser can provide additional information to support the sales price. Isn't this interesting? The lender and the real estate agent can go ahead and put paperwork in to support the actual sales price that's on that contract. In other words, the lender and the real estate agent can actually meddle with the appraiser on a VA deal where you can't do it on your Govy and your conventional deals.
And we talk about this.
We talk about this for more involved.
Yeah, we talk about this with the VA loan as a benefit. So, you want to poo-poo the appraisal. Well, guess what? Where else do you have that opportunity to say, hey, Mr. Appraiser, you missed this comp, you missed that comp? Well, again, at the end of the day, let me retract that. We don't know their comps they're using yet, but the agent has the ability to say, here's how I got my value. And so what I usually do when I have that happen, and I just had it happen, is I tee up a big high alert email after calling both agents and say, hey, here's our opportunity. Here's your, basically what you can't do. Give me the, opportunity to present something to him to see why the value is there, why we came up with this purchase price and think that it's feasible. And then they have that opportunity for those 2 days to kind of mill over what we just presented. And if they still come up with the same value, they're going to send out their appraisal, but then they can raise it. Also, if you don't win that battle, you have a reconsideration of value opportunity, and you take the appraiser completely out of it. So again, we have 4 regional offices in the VA pool, and each office is going to have an appointed case manager over your file. So that case manager now, if you do a reconsideration of value, is going to review what you sent in. Again, you're basically sending in a grid sheet of, basically almost doing a small appraisal, really.
You're comping it out. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, you're doing a grid sheet that they request that you fill out of the square footage, blah, 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 of all the comps that you're representing. And then you can write a letter. You have to get the veteran involved, and they can work a strongly worded letter because, again, we're trying to push the value up at this point. So is that the benefit of our buyer? It is if they're coming in with no money down and we think the value's there.
Well, that's interesting, though. I like what you said. You said, no, we see the VA appraisal as a benefit, because for so long we've seen that as one of the crutches, and it is a benefit because you're trying to bring the value up. Well, is that a good thing for the vet? Well, it is a good thing for the vet if the value is truly there and he wants the house. Because if you're looking at a conventional deal or an FHA deal, that could just turn into a dead deal immediately because the loan officer and the real estate agent don't have any recourse on that appraisal. But with a VA deal, it's now truly, as you said, and I love the term, it's a benefit. We need to start talking about VA loans as benefits specifically because right now with property values going up and down and vacillating as much as they are in the crazy times that we're in, we have a higher probability today of having appraisal problems than we did in years past. So having a benefit with your VA loan on appraisals, I think, is a pretty good point to make, Mike. I like that. Now, one more thing that I want to go over just real quickly here. Seller paid mandatory fees. What do you think of that term?
Seller paid mandatory fees. Please elaborate.
Well, there's a misconception, especially amongst some of us older salter dogs out there, that we would actually refer to our non-recurring fees as seller paid mandatory fees. There's no mandatory fees for sellers on VA loans, but we used to refer to them as seller-paid mandatory fees. They're not mandatory fees. There are simply fees, you would agree with us, that only the veteran cannot pay. They could be paid, but they're not going to be paid by the veteran. So the idea of a mandatory fee that is going to cost the seller money on a VA loan would be misguided, to say the least, correct?
Yeah. Just change that because there is some things that were, the veteran didn't have to pay for. And that was another thing. But they literally, because of the new NAR settlement, have changed a lot of that dynamics to where, the veteran, the buyer, at that point can, pay for just about everything.
Oh, the veteran can pay for just about everything now.
Yeah. It's not, like it used to be. I know I used to have to go back. A lot of real estate agents have admins,
Right.
assistants, or other little fees. And again, a lot of times if you don't work with that agent all the time, maybe you all just became to a mutual client for whatever reason. And the next thing you know, you're trying to cure docs for closing and you see, oh, you have a $450 admin fee here. You used to couldn't pass that on, and I'd have to call them up and say, hey, look, this can't be passed on to the veteran because of that NAR settlement and how the VA started to view these things. They changed their stance this summer.
So, in closing here, is there anything that would work against a veteran in terms of how VA loans are structured right now? Why a seller might not want to take a VA loan?
I don't see a reason why not. Like I said, I mean, you're going to leave it up to them. I've seen it where, you want to talk about, we have a lot of discrimination here across our world, period, that people want to bring up. Well, I would see it all the time. And one of my VA advocates in this local community would always go poke at any agent that would be like, conventional only,
Yeah.
on your listings. And again, I know, like you said, you were talking about your girl wanting to find a fixer-upper. You can't, when you're just, blanket labeling those properties, is that against the rules? I think it should be.
Yeah.
Because like I said, our VAs, they deserve just a fair shake and shot as anybody else. And then again, it's just all about education. And that's one of the big missions of the VA rep here locally and, nationally is just to advocate for our veterans and just, knowledge is power inside of what you can and can't do inside of a VA loan. It's one of the, last little nugget for you is we read into a statistic. I don't know where it sits today, but there was a point in the last few years, the VA loan, as far as default rate, was outperforming conventional loan.
I believe it. VAs historically have always been the best performing loan out there. Hey, listen, Michael, if anybody would like to talk with Mike about some VA stuff, if you're a real estate agent or a loan officer out in the Kentucky area, the beautiful Midwest, give him a call. Give Michael a call. His information is right here. And go ahead and twist his ear. I'll tell you right now, he's one of the nicest guys and one of the most knowledgeable guys I've met in the mortgage space, and somebody who I've got to know over the past year, and I consider a good friend. So, Mike, with this said, you make it a great day, and I will chat with you soon.
Thanks for having me, Brian. You have a great one as well. Thanks to everybody. Take care of our vets as you see. Salute.